Today I'm going to be taking a look at a show that first premiered 20 years ago, Camp Lazlo. I have positive memories of Camp Lazlo, but I don't actually remember a single episode. I don't even remember any of the characters except for Lazlo himself, so it's going to be really interesting to revisit this show and see, does it actually hold up today? Was this show a gem, a treasure, something to be praised as one of the greatest cartoons to ever come out? Or is it actually bad? Do the jokes not hold up? Is it just a overall bad show? That's the question we're going to be trying to answer today by taking a look at 2 of the best episodes, 2 of the worst episodes, and 2 random episodes of Camp Lazlo. And if you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. At 50, I'm going to be cosplaying as Pops from Regular Show and doing the Milk Challenge. And if you want a place where you're going to hang out, talk about your favorite cartoons, movies, games, shows, my Discord will be in the description. Now let's take a look at Camp Lazlo. Starting us off with one of the best episodes in the series with a 7.7 on IMDb, we have Hollow Beanies. And I apologize if my voice is a little bit different, if I look a little bit awry. I am still a little bit under the weather, so trying to get past that. But either way, this episode was really decent. I enjoyed all the aspects of it. So all the campers, they're getting moved far away for Halloween to go to a different event or something, or to go home for that. And Lumpus, the head director, he is just so pumped about this. He starts just piping up. He's like, "Oh, I adore Halloween. Oh, yes, I do." Because he gets to be alone.
I adore Halloween. Oh, yes, I do.
So he's very excited about that. I liked his little song there. He's voiced by Tom Kenny, but for some reason he reminds me a lot of Squidward. Even though he's voiced by SpongeBob. That's kind of ironic, isn't it? But I enjoyed that song a lot. He's got a good vibe to him. And then we see that the only campers that didn't leave are Lazlo, Raj, and Clam. They're all still in their little area, and Lazlo's like, "Oh guys, it's Halloween, we have to stay and trick or treat." And Raj is like, "Oh no, I don't know about this, oh no, are you sure, Lazlo, oh no." But Lazlo convinces him because of candy. And so they go and they start trick or treating. Lumpus is just trying to have a great dandy old time, but he hears a knock at his door, and he just starts tweaking, and he starts tweaking for a very long time, because Lazlo, Raj, and Clam, they just keep on going around this same little forest area and knocking on his door over and over and over again, trying to get candy, and I really enjoy watching all of Lumpus's crash outs.
No! You are not really here! Go away, whatever you are!
I think they're pretty funny. There's one where he's like, "I could smell you, you're real." And then Raj is like, "Oh, but you just smell like chocolate. You shouldn't be smelling me at all." I just think it's funny to watch him just freak out over and over and over again. I thought that was a great way to keep the episode rolling. And eventually, he goes inside and he has a bit of an epiphany. He's like, "I should try and scare them." And that's where the episode really picked up for me, because he goes outside. Well, they go inside, they see a drawer full of candy. So they rush and they start taking a bath in it, eating all that candy, just munching up. And outside, Lumpus, he just like steps on a rake and then just eats shit. And it's really funny. I don't know, I thought that was really funny. And then Lazlo, Raj, and Clam are all sitting in this dresser, eating the candy. And then they see Lumpus outside, and they get very scared because they realize, "Oh, it must be the Halloween spirit. You know who else is terrified of the Halloween spirit?" Oh man, Muscle Man hurts right now. They see the Halloween spirit, which is actually just Lumpus, but they're terrified. And Raj is like, "Oh no, I didn't believe in Halloween. I was only believing in the candy. That's why he's after us. Oh no!" And so they start panicking, and Lumpus, he's looking for his key just to get back into his house. And he gets struck by lightning.
Oh, there you are.
He's coming after us! Get over here!
Why? I like torture episodes when they're like this, to where I don't necessarily have to feel that bad for the character because he's kind of putting himself in all of these situations. Yes, Lazlo, Raj, and Clam going to his house repeatedly is obviously going to be super annoying, but it's not like Lazlo intended for him to go outside and get struck by lightning, so he's kind of just doing it to himself, which is why I still find it to be very funny. At the least, I enjoy it, even though he is getting tortured this entire episode. I thought that was good. And then Lazlo, Raj, and Clam, they run and they get stuck in a bear costume, so they're just bearing it up, and Lumpus gets back inside, and then he's chased by the bear costume everywhere, and then Lazlo, Raj, and Clam, they're like, oh, I don't feel good, and they throw up everything, and they're just showered in candy, and they're like, this is the best Halloween ever, and that's it. It was pretty good. I enjoyed this episode a lot. I really do like Lazlo, Raj, and Clam. They're very silly characters. This entire episode really reminded me a lot of how SpongeBob feels, like earlier SpongeBob. It's definitely not as funny as early SpongeBob. There weren't as many jokes, but just, I don't know, something about the vibe, the way Lazlo and Lumpus interact. It gives me SpongeBob vibes. I don't know. And I still enjoyed it a lot. Everything with Lumpus was really funny, all of his crash outs, all of his tweak outs. The physical comedy was great, where he was getting struck by lightning or hitting his face with a rake, all that stuff was good. So if I was to rate this episode 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a solid 7 out of 10. There was definitely nothing that I disliked about the entire episode. It was entertaining throughout. I would definitely want to rewatch this again. It was a lot of fun. Definitely, I can see why it's one of the best episodes. It didn't do anything too crazy to wow me into giving it an 8, a 9, or a 10, but it was a very solid episode, entertaining throughout, something I could definitely revisit. Taking a look at one of the worst episodes in the series with a 5.6 on IMDb, we have There's No Place Like Nome. And for one of the worst episodes, it definitely isn't that bad, not even remotely, but the end of the episode, it did scar me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like what happens to a specific character, it's a little bit frightening. But either way, this episode begins with them all sitting around the campfire telling horror stories, and eventually Lazlo tells a story to Edward that isn't really that scary. It's more about magical gnomes, that if you get bit by them, they will turn you into a gnome and you will get to live your life as a little gnome. Oh Lord, how adventurous and silly does that sound? It sounds great, doesn't it? But Edward doesn't believe any of this nonsense, and he's also voiced by the same person that voices Plankton, so that makes his character really funny, at least to me. I really enjoy Edward, and he's like, this is baloney, and he leaves, walks away. And that is when we hear screaming, and I really like this cutback to Lumpus, where Mr. Slick, or whatever his name is, he's like, sir, I think there's a camper screaming in need for help, and he's like, oh, let me try my earplugs. I thought that was funny.
Sounds like a screaming camper in need, sir.
Wonderful. Perfect timing to try out my Lawn Chair 3000 earplugs.
But either way, he ends up getting bit and everybody rushes over, and now they think that he's going to turn into a magical gnome. And so he wakes up the next day and they're all throwing a celebration because he's going to become a gnome, and that's until one character is all like, no, when you get bit by a gnome, they're actually gonna come and eat you and destroy you. No! And now he's like traumatized and fearful, and the only way to fix this is to get a nose hair from a moose, which is a very weird, condition to not be eaten by a gnome. Why would they want a nose hair from a moose? But either way, we get a bunch of shenanigans of Edward trying to steal a nose hair from Mr. Lumpus because he's the only moose at camp. And some of these are pretty decently funny. I enjoyed the majority of them. I really like one where he walks up to Lumpus and he's like, can I have your nose hair? And he just gets bashed in with a hammer.
Oh, again. This one doesn't have any nose hairs.
That was pretty funny, I'm not gonna lie. And he's losing all hope. He doesn't know what to do because he's gonna die if he doesn't figure this out. And that's where the episode gets a little bit traumatizing, Nobody's willing to help him, and so he gets help from Lazlo. Oh, great. Lazlo's gonna be a good help. And they both walk over to Mr. Lumpus. He has his little earplugs in, his little noise cancellation headphones. He's just trying to rest, trying to relax, trying to enjoy himself, to say the least. He's got his eyes closed. And Lazlo and Edward just slowly begin to reach for a nose hair, just slowly trying to pinch off a little nose hair. Oh, God. And they're not able to do it in time. And they notice a bunch of eyes lurking in the woods. They think it's the gnomes coming to eat Edward. And so they like both tough it up, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna go fight the gnomes, right? No. They're like, let's do this thing! And both of them jump up, leaping in the air, and they both stick their hands deep into Mr. Lumpus's nose. And you can just see it full on, just deep in there, and just start going, yeah! And just start yanking a big old nose hair out of him as hard as they can, just pulling on that thing. And it's disgusting. I don't like it at all. I don't know why they had to do that. It could have been quick. It could have been painless. But no, Mr. Lumpus just got an entire arm up his navel cavity. That was an experience to watch. And they rip out this giant nose hair, and it turns out that the gnomes weren't even there. It was just all the other campers happy that Edward was alive. Wow, what a way to scar children at the end of the episode there. Maybe that's why it's the lowest rated, solely because of that scene, because I really do not like two tiny children sticking their entire arms up a man's nose. There's something about it that I'm just not personally a fan of. But, you know, if that's your cup of tea and you were watching this episode and you were like, this is peak! Oh my lord! Oh, I loved that! Then I'm happy for you. I envy you. I wish I enjoyed that, but I didn't. Either way, if I was to rate this episode 1 out of 10, I would give this episode probably a solid 6 out of 10. There was nothing overly special about it that made me really enjoy it. Edward is decent as a main character. I like watching him just go through all of his struggles, especially because he's got Plankton's voice. It's just really funny. I did enjoy all of his shenanigans where he was going around, you know, trying to get that nose hair. That was a lot of fun. I will say that this episode is a lot slower than the first episode I watched, Halloweenies. It's way slower than that one, but it's still pretty decent. There's nothing overly bad about it, which is why I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. There's nothing that makes me want to lower it to a 5 or 4 or anything. It's just very middle of the road for me, but it's something that I wouldn't mind rewatching, which is why it's a 6 and not a 5. It's still a very decent episode, just nothing overly special about it. Taking a look at another one of the worst episodes in the series with a 5.6 on IMDb, Hot Spring Fever. And this episode revolves around Raj and Samson for pretty much the entire thing, and personally, they're okay, but carrying an entire episode for 11 minutes, it kinda gets old after a while, I'm not going to lie. So this episode begins with Raj going to his secret hot spring, and he's like, oh, yes, I love my secret hot spring. Oh, nobody knows about it. Oh, I love it. And I'm not gonna lie, his enjoyment is a little bit infectious. I couldn't help but to smile at just how much he was enjoying bathing in this hot spring. It was great. I was happy for him. And eventually we learn that Samson also goes to this secret hot spring because he needs it for his nose so that he can breathe. Okay, cool. So we know that they're gonna collide, and they eventually do. And the episode gets really, really slow from there with a couple of things that I like, but the majority of it is just really slow with them arguing like toddlers for a while. Just, oh, you would not come in my hot spring. You need to get out right now, Raj. Oh, get out right now, you stupid bump truck looking pussy. That's basically what we get for a very long time, just that kind of back and forth nonsense. And if you enjoy just nonsensical arguing for a very long time, then this is probably your cup of tea, but I personally don't like it. And they eventually both learn secrets about each other. Secrets that they both threaten to tell, so they're trying to blackmail each other into letting one or the other use the hot spring alone. That's the entire goal of it. And this goes on for probably like, I don't know, 8 minutes before something actually interesting happens. It's just so slow, and characters like Raj and Samson, they're just not that funny, at least to me. They just can't hold this up on their own, so when I'm just watching them bicker for 8 minutes, I don't really care. It makes me lose a lot of interest, so I can definitely see why this is so far one of the worst episodes. It does kind of heat up a little bit once, They both are arguing, and Raj is like trying to get him out of there, so he's wearing like a medicated face mask. He stands up and he's like, oh, I bet you don't like my European trunks. And he's wearing a Speedo, and then he like sticks his stomach out so that he's like really fat. I thought that was funny.
My European swim trunks! Enough to make you leave?
Almost.
That was pretty decent. And then eventually they're both like, okay, I'm going to tell you a secret. So they both stand up and their bodies are so wrinkly and pruny and disgusting that they could barely walk. And initially, I was very disgusted by this. I didn't like looking at the elephant's dirty, pruny body and the whatever Samson is. I don't know what he is, a mole? A weird looking mole guy with his dirty, wrinkly body, their dirty decrepitness. I didn't like looking at it. And but it kind of won me over with this one scene. I'll show you right now. Just them running while pruny just going, ah! That was kind of funny. I can't even lie. I enjoyed it. And they eventually get all the way to camp and they start spitting and spouting secrets about each other and nobody cares. And Edward is all like, you call that a secret? Everybody do this. And just everybody in the camp all around them just drops their pants and reveals a rash. What kind of camp is this? Who just all collectively is perfectly fine with just getting naked out in the open day? I don't know, maybe it's just normal. I don't know, I never went to summer camp. At your summer camp, did you all just get in a big circle where there were two naked people in the middle and just be like, oh, you guys feel bad about your secrets? Let's all get naked and expose our rashes together and our body imperfections. Typical camp activities. Yeah, and that's pretty much the episode. It was okay. This one's definitely not gonna win any popularity contests, that's for sure. I don't know, I just feel like it was lacking in telling a actually decent story, because 8 minutes of it was just hung up on this idea of arguing is entertaining, and it's not. It's really not. They, like, Raj and Samson on their own aren't the best characters to revolve an episode around, but when you're revolving around these two characters not doing anything interesting except arguing about this hot spring, then it's just not that interesting for me. And the like climax of the episode, them running back to camp, that also just isn't the best way to end the episode either. It just wasn't that entertaining. So I'd personally give this a 4 out of 10. I think it was very boring, which is why I say it's a little bit below average. It's still decent, it's entertaining for the most part, but I would never want to watch this episode again. It's just too dull that I would never want to sit through that first 8 minutes ever again. Heading back over to one of the best episodes in the series with a 7.7 on IMDb, we have the episode Meat Man. And God, do I love the beginning of this episode so much, because we have this character who is serving them lunch. I already forgot his name, but he's clearly supposed to be like a vegan character, right? He believes that they should only be eating vegetables, that good stuff, and that meat should kind of be off limits, right? He's clearly giving that vibe, at least. That's what I was getting from him. And Lazlo, Raj, and Clam, they all walk up to him, and they're like, "What's for lunch today?" And they get a big old plate of broccoli. And I know they're not intentionally rage baiting them, because I don't think Lazlo is that kind of character, but it feels that way because he gets a big old plate of broccoli and he starts imagining that his little hand has an axe. His hand does have a mini axe, and it's chopping down the rainforest, which obviously is going to piss off that guy very much.
I'm here to clear cut this lush broccoli rainforest for my famous Camp Kidney broccoli salad.
I am not!
Which leads him to cave on his own beliefs, giving them all big old cans of meat. Just this dirty, stinky meat. And, like, you know, like any normal kid would, they get the meat and they just start, you know, playing with the meat, just grabbing and gripping the meat, jorking the meat. Okay, that doesn't sound right. But they just start playing with this stinky meat. And they eventually create Meat Man. Just this little meat dude. Pretty cool.
Everyone, I'd like you to meet Meat Man.
I enjoy a little guy that's made of meat. What else do you really need in life? And they start playing with him until they decide that they'd rather be dark wizards of the Jelly Cabin. And so, you know, they start playing as wizards and they forget about Meat Man. And Meat Man starts to go from to... He gets very angry. Very, very angry. And so they decide that they're going to hide him in the closet. And that is when things start getting a little bit strange, a little bit magical, because he pretends to be Santa Claus, he pretends to be the Easter Bunny, and eventually he's able to, aneurysm. He's even able to make himself look like Raj and Clam at the same time, and eventually just morphs into this giant meat creature. And so he starts just transforming into a bunch of different things, just torturing Lazlo mainly. He wants revenge on Lazlo because Lazlo loved him, and now he no longer loves him. And it's pretty fun for the climax of the episode. I mean, I was having a good time. Visually, it's a lot of fun to watch this just big old slab of meat just transform a bunch. That was fun nonetheless. And then the vegan guy, from the beginning of the episode, he makes his triumphant return. He's like, I'm here to help with my asparagus. And he's running in with his asparagus spear, about to destroy the meat man. And then the meat man just spits like a little piece of meat onto him and he just explodes. He just dies.
Uh-oh. I've been beefed.
And I was just like, did they just fucking murder him? Dear Lord, no! I thought that was actually really funny. And then it's revealed that Lazlo is actually just telling a scary story, but nobody believes it because how are they still here? How are they still alive? And then Lazlo's nose turns into meat, and we don't know if the meat man actually killed them. It's just another cool Halloween episode. I'm glad that the top 2 episodes are Halloween themed because of, you know, it being the spooky month. It was a fun episode. I had a good amount of time. If I was to rate this episode 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a solid 7 out of 10. This is an episode that I could come back to, that I could rewatch, that I would still enjoy. I like the slow build of it. It's a lot more relaxed than Halloween's was, I feel like, but it still had a decent enough build to Meat Man actually becoming to life. There was a lot of teases with his face slowly becoming a scowl, him turning into different things in the closet. There was a slow build up to it, and the finale with him like visually turning into a rhino or becoming giant or slinging meat at everybody or killing the vegan guy. That was a lot of fun, so that was a great way to end the episode, and I just enjoyed many aspects of it. It didn't do anything like overly crazy good that makes me want to put it anything higher than a 7, but a 7 is still great. There's nothing wrong with a 7 out of 10. Still really phenomenal. Nothing bad about the episode. An episode that I could definitely rewatch someday. Taking a look at the random category with a 6.4 on IMDb, we have Ed's Benedict. And this episode begins with literal stalking. We have Lazlo, Raj, and Clam all just peeping with their binoculars looking at birds. And in this world, all the animals are like basically humans. They all have opinions, they all have values, they all have a mom, a dad, somebody who cares about them. And there's a peeping Tom just staring at them, looking at them. And they're even reading a book about bird watching. So if they're watching birds, then somebody was staring at a grandma bird and analyzing the best way to bird watch like a dirty, perpy creep. That's horrible. Either way, they eventually see Edward walking and they call him a duck, which just, for some reason, spouts off Edward's racist tendencies. Yes, he gets very racist, runs over to the only actual 2 birds at camp, these 2 long birds, and just starts being racist to them, saying, I'm not no damn dirty bird. I'm not a bird. I don't even lay eggs. And he goes to bed that night, and he lays a big, stinky egg.
Oh, don't worry, Edward. I leave accidents in my bed all the time.
This was no accident! Guys!
And while I was watching this, because he reacts in a very negative way, I was thinking, okay, it's either they haven't had the birds and the bees talk yet, or he's just perfectly fine with somebody coming in the middle of the night doing something really dirty to him and him laying an egg. Because platypuses, they don't reproduce asexually. Just throwing that out there. So that was my question for the majority of this episode, and I was very worried. I was very worried what somebody did to poor little Edward in the middle of the night. I was very worried, to say the least. And so, he wants to give away his child, so he goes to a cave in the middle of the nowhere, dumps his little baby into that cave, and then realizes that, oh my god, wait, I could be a mama! And he runs back and he gets his egg back, and he's very pumped about this, so now he has his little egg. He's excited, he's feeling good about it, and so he starts just trying to be a good mother, take care of it, just run around with it, make sure it doesn't see anything traumatizing, and eventually, he learns that it's not his when it hatches, and just in it is a little bird. That's not a platypus. How tragic. I mean, I'm very glad that nobody decided to impregnate Edward. I'm very glad that nobody impregnated Edward in the middle of the night. That is very relieving. And the episode actually does tackle that idea at the end, where it's just like, well, why wasn't it mine? And then they're like, well, naturally that wouldn't happen. And then everybody's like, what do you mean? Naturally that wouldn't happen? And so the nurse has to show everybody the specific video for their specific animal on how they would give birth and how they would achieve giving birth, to say the least. So yeah, that was interesting. This episode was definitely okay. There were certain things that I liked about it. it kind of never really felt like it had a climax or a big moment to top off the episode. It kind of just felt like one linear slice of life plot. I think Edward works well as a main character for the episode. I like seeing all his reactions to things and watching him become a genuine mother caring for the egg. It was really funny. I enjoyed that a lot. So if I was to rate this episode 1 out of 10, I would probably give it a solid 6 out of 10. Yeah, it was decent. There was definitely nothing bad about the episode. I was kind of expecting a little bit more, but that was just my own tastes. It was still very decent, still very entertaining. It's an episode that I could go back to if I want, but again, didn't really do anything overly amazing to make it one of the most peak experiences of my life. So just a 6 out of 10, slightly above average, is where I would definitely rate this episode. The final episode that I'm going to be taking a look at with a 6.4 on IMDb is The Book of Slinkman, and this episode opens with Lazlo and Slinkman being very excited about the new Boy Scout handbook, the bean book, whatever you want to call it. They're very excited for it, and Samson is going to get it, but on his way there, he accidentally trips, he falls, and he puts both of the packages in mud, and he doesn't know which one is supposed to go to which camp, and so he ends up giving the Girl Scout book to the boys, and the Boy Scout book to the girls. And so, because Lazlo and Slinkman treat this book like it's the Holy Bible, they just can't believe all of its measures and divine interventions for their life and what they're supposed to do as scouts. They just follow its word willy-nilly. And we just get a bunch of shenanigans where they're doing a bunch of girl stuff, like baking cake while roller skating, or dressing in Girl Scout outfits, or trying to look really sexy, I guess, because for some reason this book that is designed for little scout girls has Edward dressing up, wearing this big old poofy dress and having pillows to plump up his big Edward duck ass. Yeah, that's a little bit weird, but everybody starts calling Edward beautiful and sexy, so he's all about it.
Excuse me, darling. I have to go to the powder room.
Very odd stuff's going on, not the typical camp shenanigans, and Slinkman is really doubting everything that's going on, but with Lazlo's pressure, he realizes that he needs to stick to the book, he needs to stick to the importance of the holy camp book, and so they're eventually just flipping through the pages, and it says to avoid Lazlo. So Lazlo gets locked up, and then Slinkman gets locked up, and Edward is just like, time to go bake cupcakes. I don't know. I think some of it's really funny, but it's just okay for the most part. And then eventually every single guy gets locked up because, girls can't hang out with the guys. That's just forbidden. And then Lumpus goes over, and he finds the book, and he just reads, oh, this is the squirrel handbook for the girls. Gotta leave. And then everybody just starts puffing out their chest to act like a man again, and that's pretty much the entire episode. It's definitely very okay. I think what I'm beginning to notice about Camp Lazlo is it's not always going to have the craziest plot resolutions, the craziest stories. If you're going into this wanting something just visually insane, visually appealing, the craziest jokes, the craziest shenanigans, you're not going to get that the majority of the time. What I'm getting from Camp Lazlo is that it's very slice of life, very just, oh, I'm just going to chill, turn this on, not really have my brain working too hard, and just enjoy what the campers are going through. And I think it works well at doing that. It's very good for slice of life. It's not going to do something so overbearing or so over-delivered to where you're going into it with super ultimate excitement, but it is very good slice of life. I enjoy it for that aspect. If I was to rate this episode 1 out of 10, I would give it a solid 5 out of 10. It definitely didn't do anything that wowed me, and there was nothing really bad about it. It's very average. All the shenanigans they were doing, it wasn't even that funny, but I wouldn't say it was bad. Again, 5 out of 10 isn't a bad score. I'm not gonna lie. Being just average doesn't make you bad. I hate it when people are like, oh, I only got a 5 out of 10, that makes it so shitty. No, it just means that it's not gonna be the best thing you've ever seen. It's also not gonna be the worst thing you've ever seen. It's very average. I still found it entertaining, but it didn't do anything that really wowed me so much. So yeah, 5 out of 10, it's decent. So is Camp Lazlo actually good? I think it's decent. I think it's definitely above average and works very well as a slice of life show. I don't think in any way is it going to be your favorite cartoon, and if it is, that's great. I think it works well as just, you know, connecting with the vibe, enjoying the silly shenanigans that the characters are going through, but I don't think it does anything so crazy that it lives up to some of the greatest shows of all time. That's not to say that it's bad. I'm not calling Camp Lazlo bad by any means. I just think, to me, it's very middle of the road. It's not going to be my favorite anytime soon, but it's something that if it was on, I would still be having a great time. I would definitely choose to watch Camp Lazlo, and I would enjoy it. Whatever episode was on, I'd probably be having a pretty good time, but if a other show like Regular Show, Adventure Time, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Samurai Jack, Dexter's Lab, I would probably pick that over Camp Lazlo, and that's just my personal opinion, because Camp Lazlo, it works well as slice of life. It's a good show, but it's just not going to be one of my favorites. I would love to hear what you think about Camp Lazlo, and if it is one of your favorites, I would love to hear why. These videos are never really about shitting on anything. If you have an opinion that is the opposite of what I'm saying about a specific show, that's great. I would love to hear it, because we all have our favorite shows, we all enjoy things, and I would love to know why you enjoy Camp Lazlo so much, why you didn't enjoy Camp Lazlo, what you disliked about it. I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. I've been a little bit sick, which is why I had to take 2 whole days off. I had an 18-day upload streak, which was voided from the illness. So yeah, that's also why there's not many impressions in this one. And I know some people are kind of iffy on the impressions, but I enjoy them. They make making content a lot more fun. So I'm gonna keep doing them, even if you're like, oh my god, this guy just did his 6th Arnold impression. I don't care. Makes it fun, man. We're supposed to be having a conversation. It's not supposed to be like all of those other YouTubers where it's just I'm just gonna tell you every single aspect of the episode just verbatim and not tell any jokes, not try to make it fun. I'm not gonna be like that. It's supposed to be a conversation between friends. That's how it's supposed to feel. So yeah, I'm having a good time. It's good to be back though. I'm gonna be feeling less sick, and then I'm probably gonna go right back to daily content. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.